Hey everyone, welcome back. I wanted to do a little bit of a wrap up for the Frank's List project, so I thought I would do a couple of videos where I talk briefly about the movies on the list that I loved, the movies I didn't, and the biggest surprises. I picked 5 movies for each category. I'm going to break this up into a couple of different videos because I'm pretty sure that no one is going to want to watch one super long video where I talk about all this stuff. I promise I'll try to keep these individual videos as brief as I can. Because no one likes bad news, let's start off with the films I hated the most and just get that out of the way, shall we? First up on the list is The Stuff. This is the video where a commenter told me that because I didn't like the movie, he hoped I would get AIDS. So apparently The Stuff has a pretty dedicated fan base. This film immediately struck me as lazy. The writing feels like a first draft. The direction felt like it revolved completely around the budget. I didn't like any of the actors in it, and it just felt like the kind of crappy drive-in B-movie that would have gotten made in the 50s or 60s and played after the good movie. You know what? I'm gonna change that just a little bit. It's not that I didn't like the actors, it was like that I didn't like any of the performances in the movies. There are some good actors in this movie. I just didn't like any of the performances. The Stuff is a Larry Cohen film, and I know that he has a devoted fan base, but I have not enjoyed any of the films that I've ever seen that he's directed. He comes out of that gonzo, just get it made era of filmmaking, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you eventually grow and mature into a better filmmaker. It doesn't seem like he ever really did. The Stuff has a good premise, it's just poorly and cheaply made, and I think someone with a good rewrite and a better budget can make this into a genuinely good film. Next up on the list is Clifford. Oh man, Clifford. A film where Martin Short, who was 44 at the time, is playing a 10-year-old, and one of the world's most obnoxious psychopathic 10-year-olds at that. This came out a few years after Problem Child and Problem Child 2, 2 films about a troublemaking young man that were both, in my opinion, considerably better than Clifford. For me, whatever comedy the filmmakers felt was inherent in this script was completely lost on the fact that they were asking you to buy this fully grown man as a 10-year-old for an hour and a half. Look, obviously Frank loves this movie, and to be honest, I've been surprised to discover this film actually has a legitimate cult following. I was not a fan though. This was one of the only films I genuinely considered just turning off without even finishing it. To this day, just talking about it still sort of makes me unhappy. We'll just move on. Next up on the list is The Island. Now, I did not know who director Michael Ritchie was before I watched this, even though I had seen one of his films before The Island. Since watching The Island, though, I've seen several more of his films, including Smile, which I made a whole video about, and have come to really enjoy and respect his body of work. The Island, though, I mean, dude, this movie is weird and boring, and I just kind of hated it. Except for the last 20 minutes or so, which I pointed out in my original video. The Island is just a convoluted story about a reporter who takes his son with him to go find why people are disappearing off the coast of Florida. What they find is something that, no spoilers, is kind of just dumb, and the movie leans in so hard on that idea of it being cool that my interest just collapsed and I barely made it through this. It's far and away one of the worst Michael Caine movies I've ever seen. The only way I would ever watch it again would be if I was doing a complete Michael Ritchie or Michael Caine filmography watch through. Moving on, number 4 on this list is Harsh Times. Now, there were a couple of David Ayer involved films on this list. Dark Blue was written by him, Street Kings was directed by him, but written by someone else, and Harsh Times, of course, which he wrote and directed. Harsh Times is a nihilistic film about 2 guys with an almost stunning lack of any kind of moral compass, who are only a hair's length from the truly degenerate people they think they're better than. Pure and simple, I don't enjoy films where characters who are horrible human beings act like horrible human beings the whole time. And the filmmaker is effectively trying to get you to somehow empathize with them or convince you of something with them. He tries to set up Christian Bale's character as someone who could have changed if he would have gotten this job he was going for, when clearly this character was never going to change, and him not getting the job only sped up his inevitable downfall. Freddy Rodriguez's character is, I guess, the one that the audience is supposed to empathize with the most. He has some little bit of handle on his life, but really, it's that all of that is just provided by his girlfriend, who actually has a good paying job, a house, and for whatever reason puts up with him. Harsh Times is a movie about people being and eventually, in the lamest, most impotent way, getting some little bit of comeuppance at the very end. It's a celebration of people, and I don't enjoy films like that. And I definitely hated this one. Okay, enough of Harsh Times. And to be honest with you, enough of this list. I really tried to come up with a fifth film for this, but honestly and truthfully, there just wasn't one. There were movies on the list that I didn't love, movies that were only okay, and movies that were very one and done for me. But these four are the only four that I genuinely did not like, to the point where I can honestly say that I hated them. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the 5 biggest surprises that were on the list. These were all the films that I had never heard of and had no real expectations of, and ended up really liking them. After that, I'm going to do my top 5 favorites. In the meantime, you can feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you doing all those things, and I will see you in the next one.